Today we're going to talk about rigging. Rigging is one of the most difficult things you could do as an animator, and you kind of need to be able to learn how to do it in order to rig your own characters, animate them, and pretty much make them do what you want according to your own measures and techniques. And what rigging is basically giving your character, like this one right here, its own skeletal system. This will allow us to manipulate and maneuver them in any way we want and pretty much animate them to whatever scene we're trying to portray. And there's a couple of different ways of rigging a character. I'm going to show you about 3 different ways, and we're going to start today with auto rigging or step-by-step rigging. So before we move further, let's go to our rigging tab. So we just go from animation to rigging right here. There we go. This will give us access to a bunch of different toolbars, and the ones we're going to focus on today are skeleton and skin, mostly skeleton. So what we're going to do is we're going to start using our quick rig or our auto rig. So they're both pretty much named the same thing. Quick rig is kind of the Maya version of it. And what that does is it will allow us to rig a character quickly. So before we get started with that, let me just talk about joints and skeletal systems. So I'm just going to put a couple of these right here. And what this is a skeleton. These little spheres at each piece right here are called joints, and these triangular pyramids are called bones. And what they do is they allow us to essentially maneuver the different joints and bones around and work with them just like that. So pretty simple. One of the things I would like to also mention is your body is rotational and not translational. That's something that a lot of people usually have a little trouble getting the hang of when they're starting out with rigging and animating. And what that means is if I was to move this arm right here, I'm rotating this shoulder joint. I'm not moving these pieces around, I'm rotating them. And with that idea in mind, rigging becomes a lot easier when it gets to adding controls and animating them. So let's get started with a quick rig. So let me just open this up here so we have as much screen space as possible. So to pretty much do a quick rig, we're going to go to skeleton, quick rig, and this box is going to come up. I'm going to select my character right here. He's just a little dummy model. He's pretty similar to the ones that you would find like an art supply store for drawing and kind of getting basic shapes. So first thing is we're going to try one click, and I'm going to hit auto rig. Oops, I have him selected. Hit auto rig, and what's going to happen now is Maya's just going to look at the character and try to rig it to the best of its ability. Let's take a look at it. So these red squares and circles, and these blue circles, they're called controls. What they are is they'll allow us to maneuver our character around and pretty much adjust them however we need. So if I go and let's just select this control, move it around, it works, but not really well. What I mean by that is, if we look right here, these joints, they're not really in the right spot. As you can see by this curvature of the leg, it thinks its knee is right here when it should be right here. And because of that, you're getting this weird curving kind of design. Same thing if I go to these arms. If I rotate them, you can see the arm is rotating nicely, but that joint is getting all distorted. So quick rigs and auto rigging are pretty useful, but doesn't really get the job done well enough. It could be a good way to do it in a pinch, but you can't really guarantee it to be very accurate or work much at all. So let's get rid of this rig by just deleting it. And we're going to try again through a quick rig, but this time we're going to go and do it by step. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the character right here. So we're just starting a new one. And what this does is it will go one step at a time to really set up our rig. So first step, geometry. I'm going to select my character, hit the plus, adds all my geometry. As you can see, he's in a bunch of different pieces because I do have them as separate pieces parented to each other. Some people might have their objects combined. It's really up to you. So next step, guides. What this will do is it will start giving us spots where it thinks the joints want to go or where they should be, and then we're going to adjust them the next step. So embed method, we're going to use imperfect mesh. You could use something like watertight mesh if you know your character is a completely solid object, doesn't have holes or anything like that. But if you have something like eye sockets or mouth hole or anything like that, you're going to want to go with imperfect mesh. Resolution, we're going to leave it at 256 for now because we don't really need to do much more than that. After that, I'm going to hit create/update. And what's going to pop up are all these little dots. These are our guides. I'm going to go switch to my front view for now. And we're going to take a look at our character. So let me just maneuver this up by here so we can see him. So these guides are where Maya thinks the joint should be. And this is pretty much where it would have put them if we did the auto rig again. And we can see how that came out really wrong. So we're going to fix this up quite a bit. We're going to start on the right side of our screen or the left side of the character since the character is facing the front of us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select each one of these little joints or these guides, and I'm going to put them right back to where they should be. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're going to try to get it as close as we can to the correct spots, just like that. And I'm only going to focus on one side for now. And as you can see, I'm using the geometry of our spheres in our joints just as a little bit of a guide to help ease them into place. So all I'm doing is just maneuvering them right over into place, just like that. And I'm just pressing F to focus on each joint to speed this process up because I'm not currently using a mouse. So that looks good there. That looks good. Let's do the neck. So I'm going to put that one there. This I'm going to put at the top of my head. Give it a spot to go. I'll raise this up a bit. I'm going to put this one a little higher. This one I'm going to go right there. I might raise this a little bit too. All right. So it looks pretty good from the front view, but if I look at it from our perspective view again, it might not necessarily be perfectly centered. You can see right there, it's not really centered. So I'm going to look at it from the top view now and fix those arms even more. So I'm just going to go bring this over to here. And the closer we get, the more accurate and it's going to be, and it's going to work with our character a lot more. It's going to be a lot cleaner. So, did the side right there. That looks all good. Let's do the leg. So for the knee, we're going to bring this right here. And again, I'm just using the actual geometry from the sphere to act as my guide. This one's going to go over here. My toe joint. Is this the correct toe? This is not the correct toe. So my toe joint. There we go. I'm going to put it at the front, just like that. And I think we're in good shape. We might go through the side just to make sure these are all nicely lined up. Because we want our rig to work out pretty well. That looks pretty good. We get a little bit better. And I'm going to go right there. So that looks pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and start mirroring my stuff over. So what that means is I'm going to take what I did on one side and bring it over to the other side. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on all the joints that I moved around. So I'm just going to do the ones on my leg and my arm. I don't remember if I moved this, but we're going to just assume I did. And we're going to go to user adjustment of guides, and I'm going to click on this icon right here. What that does is it will mirror one side of the joints to the other side. So since I did these, I'm going to click on this icon right here. If you did the other side, we would do this one. I'm just going to mirror it over. This works out really well if your character is symmetrical. If you do have an asymmetrical character, if their arms are different shapes or anything like that, you will still work on this manually, but for ours, since it is a symmetrical character, it works nicely. So for skeleton and rig generation, we're just going to go and hit create, update, and now we have nicely rigged. And the last one is skinning. So what skinning does is it binds the skeletal system that we've created to the actual mesh of our model, and that will actually let us manipulate and maneuver our character. So there we go. I can close out of this, and now if I rotate this, things should rotate a lot better. So in the arm, I do have some weird scaling problems or deformation problems in the shoulder, but it is moving a little bit better. Let's try the leg out, see if he bends a little bit better. Oh yeah, that's much better. Again, we are having some weird deformations, but that is a lot more usable than what he was before. So in the next videos, I'm going to talk about how using a human IK and how to manually rig a character. That way you could actually really get into rigging your own stuff and getting things to move to your own style and your own taste. But other than that, this guy is pretty much done. So I really hope you learned something, and yeah, see you next time.